The Zephyrian hunting party materialized from their cloaked ships like shadows given form, their elongated limbs moving with predatory grace across the forest floor of Kepler 442b. They had tracked their quarry for 3 solar cycles, a single human child, no more than 12 standard years old, who had somehow survived the destruction of the human research outpost. Commander Vex Ka clicked his mandibles in satisfaction as his thermal sensors locked onto the small heat signature huddled beneath a fallen log. The child was barely breathing, weakened by days without proper sustenance. Perfect. The Galactic Council would pay handsomely for a live human specimen, especially one so young and malleable. Surround the area. Vex Ka whispered into his comm. Unit. Remember, we need it alive. What the Zephyrians didn't know was that little Sarah Chen had managed to activate her father's emergency beacon before the research station fell. The signal had traveled across 17 light-years of space, carrying with it her biometric data, her location, and one simple, desperate message. Help me. The message reached the UES Retribution 3 days later. Captain Marcus Torres stood on the bridge of the human dreadnought, his weathered face carved from stone as he read the transmission. Around him, the bridge crew had fallen silent. Everyone knew the statistics. Everyone knew that when the Zephyrian hunting parties took human prisoners, those prisoners were never seen again. Sir, Lieutenant Commander Zhang spoke carefully, the Council has already written off the Kepler system. Our orders are to maintain our patrol route. Torres didn't respond immediately. He stared at the holographic display showing Sarah's last known coordinates, watching the small blue dot pulse like a heartbeat. Behind him, Senior Chief Petty Officer Williams cleared his throat. Captain, that little girl, she's the same age as my daughter. Torres closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something fundamental had shifted in his expression. Mr. Zhang, set course for Kepler 442b, maximum burn. Sir, will be in violation of direct orders. I didn't stutter, Lieutenant. Commander, the Retribution's fusion drives ignited with the fury of a newborn star. Back on Kepler 442b, Sarah Chen crouched in her hiding place, clutching the small knife her father had given her. She could hear them moving through the underbrush, their alien voices cutting through the forest silence like broken glass. She thought of her parents, of the way they'd smiled when they'd shown her the research station that would be her home. She thought of the massive creatures they'd been studying, the gentle giants that had seemed so peaceful until the Zephyrians arrived. A twig snapped nearby. Sarah held her breath. There, hissed one of the aliens. The thermal bloom is strongest. Behind that log. Sarah's hand tightened on her knife as chitinous claws scraped against bark. She could smell them now, the acrid, metallic scent that had filled her nightmares since the attack. She closed her eyes and tried to remember what. Her father had taught her about being brave. The log above her exploded in a shower of splinters as the Zephyrians tore it apart. Sarah found herself staring up at 5 pairs of compound eyes, each one reflecting her terrified face back at her 1,000 times. "Hello, little human," Vex Ka chittered. "You've led us quite a chase." That was when the sky caught fire. The UES, Retribution, dropped out of hyperspace like the wrath of an angry god, its massive bulk blotting out the alien sun. It had made the journey in 18 hours, a new record that would have been impossible without Torres pushing both the ship and crew beyond their limits. On the bridge, Torres stood like a statue as the tactical display populated with targets. "Weapons! Paint every Zephyrian ship in the system. I want firing solutions on all of them." "Sir," There are over 30 vessels. Did I ask for a count, Mr. Patterson? The weapons officer's fingers flew over his console. All targets locked. Sir, Torres opened a channel to the Zephyrian fleet. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of 2 billion years of evolutionary violence, of a species that had clawed its way up from primordial ooze to reach the stars through sheer, bloody-minded determination. This is Captain Marcus Torres, of the United Earthship Retribution. You have 60 seconds to return our child and withdraw from this system. This is your only warning. The response came from Vexca himself, transmitted from the planet's surface. Human vessel, you are outnumbered 30-1. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Torres smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Mr. Patterson, show them what consequences look like. The Retribution opened fire. What followed wasn't a battle. It was an execution. The human dreadnought's weapon systems had been designed by a species that had spent millennia perfecting the art of warfare. Fusion torpedoes lanced through space like vengeful spirits, each one carrying the destructive power of a small star. Point defense arrays swept the void clean of fighter craft, their streams of coherent energy turning sleek Zephyrian interceptors into expanding clouds of superheated gas. In less than 4 minutes, 37 alien ships had been reduced to drifting debris. On the planet's surface, Vexca's hunting party watched their fleet die in stunned silence. The commander's mandibles clicked frantically as he tried to process what he was witnessing. The humans were supposed to be weak, supposed to be easy prey. The intelligence reports had said, "Commander," one of his subordinates whispered, "the human ship is launching drop pods." Vexca looked up to see a dozen points of light streaking through the atmosphere like falling stars. But these weren't stars. They were United Earth Marines, and they were coming fast. The first pod hit the ground 50 meters from Sarah's position, its impact crater glowing with residual heat. The armored figure that emerged stood nearly 3 meters tall in full combat exoskeleton, its sensor array sweeping the forest with mechanical precision. This is Sergeant Major Harrison, 3rd Marine Expeditionary. Sarah Chen, if you can hear. Me, stay down and stay quiet. We're here to take you home. What followed was less a rescue operation than a demonstration of applied violence. The Marines moved through the forest like steel wolves, their weapons speaking in tongues of plasma and hypervelocity rounds. The Zephyrians, for all their vaunted hunting prowess, found themselves on the wrong end of the food chain for the first time in their species' history. Vexca made it exactly 43 seconds before a Marine sniper put a tungsten round through his thorax from 800 meters away. When the smoke cleared, Sarah Chen found herself wrapped in a thermal blanket, sitting in the cargo bay of a Marine dropship as it climbed toward the stars. Around her, the Marines who had risked everything to save her checked their weapons and spoke in quiet voices about home. Captain Torres was waiting when they docked with the Retribution. He knelt down to Sarah's eye level, his stern expression softening as he looked at the small, brave girl who had survived 3 days alone on an alien world. "Are you hurt, sweetheart?" Sarah shook her head, then looked up at him with eyes that had seen too much. "Why did you come for me? The council said I wasn't worth it." Torres was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute conviction. "Because you're one of ours, and we don't leave our own behind. Ever." As the Retribution turned toward home, carrying its precious cargo safely in its armored embrace, a message rippled across the galactic communication networks. It spread from system to system, translated into 1,000 different languages, until every civilized species in the galaxy had heard the same simple truth. Humanity had a very long memory and an even longer reach. Touch their children and discover what vengeance truly means.